Hey, what's going on, everyone? I'm Nate Schoemer, and you're watching my show on dog training, where I sit down with world class trainers, behavior specialists, authors, and educators from the world of dogs. Today's guest is Bow Wow Bill. Bow Wow Bill's passion for dogs began at just 8 years of age, sparking a lifelong commitment to understanding canine behavior and helping with a deep knowledge of canine psychology. Bill's clear, compassionate training methods have been featured on television and proven effective for pet dogs, service dogs, and working companions. His approach centers on trust, communication, and building strong, lasting relationships between dogs and their families. Above all, Bill is dedicated to helping every dog live a balanced, fulfilling life. Bow Wow Bill, welcome to the show.
What's up, Nate?
Sorry, I'm trying to
Oh,
get both of us on here and I'm having an issue.
no worries, man. There we go.
There we go. Welcome to the show.
Hey, good to see you, buddy.
It's good to see you as well. I appreciate you taking the time out of the day.
Of
Let's jump
course.
in and start talking a little bit about NePoPo. And as we have questions coming in, we'll start answering those directly. So, are there any saved rounds that you have from the last conversation that we had?
I just want to reiterate what NePoPo is. NePoPo stands for negative, positive, positive. It's a system that has been developed by Michael and Bart Bellin to get a dog to do on cue every time with heart and soul. And it's once you understand the framework of how the system works, and there's a school that they have there's one online, and then there's one in person, both in America and in Europe. And the one in America is coming in Missouri in October. I always recommend going in person when you can, shake hands and meet people and actually, struggle to learn the stuff with others. I think that it is much more uh, of a learning experience than it is just doing it online. But online is also an option as well that I highly recommend. And that's there's a couple levels there. There's a silver, which talks about the theory, and then the gold level is more hands-on, where you're actually working with dogs and bringing dogs and solving problems using the system, using the tools after you have a good understanding of the framework of how it all works, and then you start putting it together during the gold school.
And what are some of the key differences from this system and some of the other ones? If we were to say, let's say Tom Rose School has their system, Michael Ellis has a system that he teaches
You know, I
training without conflict, right? All these different systems. What are some of the things that stand out about
I
this program and how it's implemented that really changes the way the dog looks at training?
I haven't been through Tom's or Michael's or Ivan's program, so I can't speak to those programs. But the only thing that
Right.
I can really say is that this one really focuses on how to put ignition into especially sporting dogs, right? And so there's a way to use it in the pet dog world, but it's also we have to remember that the pet dog clients aren't really interested in learning all of the terminology, the technicalities. They just want help with the problem that they have. And I recommend attending all these schools. And so you can have an eclectic knowledge base to draw back on. I think that the one unique thing is just the framework and how they utilize negative reinforcement to build drive and to help that dog understand. And there's also a learning pyramid that's taught in that school on how to implement the system and how to know when to switch to the next level and the next level up to get that reliable on cue performance that we're looking for. And the thing that attracted me to this school was I watched a video with Bart and his dog Thor, and the dogs that are produced using this methodology are amazing. Man, their eyes are on fire, their tails up, their heads up, ears up, and they're ready. And you could tell that they're happy to perform and happy to do the tasks that are asked of them on cue.
Yeah, it kind of makes me laugh because I've watched some videos of Bart years ago and I was fascinated at how well his dogs performed. And the only criticism I've ever heard of Bart specifically with his dogs is that they look too robotic. And then I have to laugh. I mean, they're too precise, is what you're saying. They move too well and perfect. Like they really do move well, and they are very happy about it. What I think would be a fun exercise is looking at some of the main cases that people have with their dogs. So let's say someone's listening and they have an issue that may be based on fear, or let's say a professional dog trainer or someone who's new in the dog training world, they want to be prepared for these different cases. And I think a lot of times behavioral cases tend to be more difficult for most people in the beginning. If you get a brand new puppy, which we were talking about, you have a puppy right now,
Yep.
that puppies, they're a clean slate and they're really great to practice on because they don't have any of those things that you have to navigate through from, let's say, training that took place prior that maybe caused some issues. You had a great conversation with Austin yesterday where you guys were talking of some, some pretty extreme cases. And I really liked what Austin said, where he said, I don't say I'm a dog trainer anymore. I don't teach dog training. I teach dog communication,
Yeah, I
which
love
really what dog training is. Can we communicate with the dogs as clearly and as effectively as possible? So I always tell people we have 5 main behavioral issues. Now, you could take these 5 and you can mix and match to have all kinds of different situations. So if you took the numbers 1 through 5, you can create a lot of numbers with that, changing the order and how it's placed. So we try to simplify it. And then, of course, each case could be very unique. So the 5 that I always say is dangerous, destructive, fear, aggression, or behaviors we just don't want a dog to perform. And of course, a behavior could be fear and aggression. It could be dangerous and aggressive. It could be a mix of so many different things. So let's just try to keep each one pretty simple. And let's say someone's dealing with a fearful dog that's not really aggressive, but it is very fearful, very cautious, very nervous, stiffens up, and it's hard to build that dog's trust. What are some steps that you're going to take with that dog? And let's do 2 different approaches. One where you're going to the client's house or you're meeting with the client, maybe at a neutral environment where you're teaching them what to do. Or if you take the same dog in for a stay and train program. So let's start with the lesson. So you have client reaches out, my dog's really fearful. I want to build my dog's confidence and then do a little bit of obedience so I can start taking my dog to places. I got this Labrador retriever because I live in Los Angeles and I wanted to take my dog to the coffee shop and take my dog downtown. But this dog is so skittish, so fearful, and it's constantly looking everywhere. I need some help. How would you
Yes.
approach this?
Well, first and foremost, managing expectations is huge, right? And let me take it back to the NePoPo. Like Bart does the sport dog world, and the beautiful thing about it is that Michael does the pet dog world, right? And she talks about relationship and how to build that relationship, and that is key. The relationship, like you mentioned earlier, I'm all about trust and proper great communication, just like we talked about with Austin, right? Is like speaking the language, becoming the dog by proxy, kind of seeing the world through eyes. Managing expectation. The first thing I ever do is I observe. Observation is huge, you guys. We have to stop and take a second and don't already have a preconditioned notion that we are already going to solve the problem before we've even seen it presented in front of us, right? And so I want to observe the client. I want to observe the relationship the client has with the dog. They respond to the dog's skittishness. I want to see if the dog. You see that? Okay, there we are. Some of the dogs
Sorry, we're
have,
losing some connection there.
you know, a genetic component that needs to be considered as well, and the threshold of overwhelm. There's a lot of factors that come into play, right? But the first and foremost thing is to observe before we start to make and implement any changes, and start to be able to communicate a way that I love analogies, right? The way that the client is going to understand that's not a dog trainer, that's not passionate about the technology or technicalities that are behind the scenes at play of what's causing this dog to present in this manner, and then start to make some subtle changes, right? Is the key, is incrementally building the dog's confidence, but also explain it in a way that the human understands what's happening, the telltale signs of when the dog starts to initially get overwhelmed, how to manage that in a way that's going to build the dog's confidence, and then keep on building that incrementally, right? That's the other aspect of this, is that small changes. And I have to remind my clients, like, slow is fast, less is more. Those are two of my favorite sayings about working with dogs. Is like, we can't do this overnight. We have all this technology that at a push of a button gives us access to so much information, and we're used to kind of a quick solution, th- but it doesn't work that way with behavior. And so being
Mhm.
patient, being honest, observing what's in front of you, and how do we build stability? Just like in the system, we talk about how do we build ignition? How do we put gasoline into that dog and passion for what they're doing? But there's also a way to build stability, build confidence, build a calmness in that dog. And that's taught as well in the school. We just have to know what system to use, when to use it, how to utilize the dog's psychology to make them think, hey, look, I'm okay in this situation. I got somebody that is a leader, that it has my back, and the weight of the world doesn't fall on my shoulders.
And so the first conversation, you're going to be trying to glean as much information as possible from the owners to see what
Yeah.
type of lifestyle this dog has, what type of exercise, what type of nutrition, how the structure is inside the house, which I find very interesting. As we were talking about again before we jumped on, last night I was writing an article for the episode that I did with Larry, the first episode, and I wanted to connect the science to the topics that Larry was talking about in the podcast. And one of the things he talked about was dealing with some very severe behavioral cases, whether it was aggression, fear, any sort of behavior that's going to cause somebody some stress and heartache dealing with those issues. And he said, I was testing out a hypothesis where I just brought the dogs into my home. I didn't do any obedience, I just gave them structure. And of
That's
course,
right.
there is some obedience there because you have to tell the dog, don't do this, don't do that, right? But people, when they think about obedience, they're usually thinking about sit down, stay, come, heel, those types of things. So there is still obedience. And that's why I like when I heard Austin say that, I was like, yeah, I'm going to start saying that. I'm a dog communicator. I'm teaching people how to communicate to their dogs. And he
Yes.
said, just by changing the structure in the household, the behavioral issues went away. And I've seen that as well with dogs that I've had in for stay and train. By changing the structure, changing the way the dog lives their daily routine can change the way the dog behaves, and it could create the dog that someone wants and quickly start to remove those behavioral issues just by looking at some of those. And it's like we don't always have to address a behavioral issue by attacking it head on, sometimes working up from the very beginning. So I think that's a good strategy to get as much information from the owner as possible. Now, would you do this over a phone call, like a consultation, or is this in person? We're going to sit down and we're just going to talk. We're going to figure out where you are and where you want to go.
Both. I mean, it's always better to be in person. Just like I recommend the school in person, I always like to meet with my clients in person. If not, then I want them to videotape to video the interaction or the problem that they're having. And if somebody else can video it and I can see how they respond to it. And you're right, man. It's essentially, we're just changing the conversation that you're having. We're communicating in a more effective, meaningful way with the dog. And you can see it with the dog. Once we start to communicate effectively, the dog's just like, oh, you get me, you know. and
Mhm.
and and that's the key, is like, and just like with my clients here, what was a big aha moment for me was I would take dogs that were my clients that are locally, and I would board them. And I don't do as many board and trains now, but I would have a client send their dog to me for a week for boarding, just boarding. And I was asking them, where are you guys going? What part of the world are you visiting? They're like, oh, we're not going anywhere, man. He just behaves so much better after he comes home from your place, that every once in a while we just need to send him to Bow Wow Bill. And that showed me that the structure that I have of the dog just being here kind of bleeds into the rest of their life. And I was like, man, that's right. It's like once a dog kind of has I don't know, a meaningful conversation with the human being, it influences other aspects of their behavior, even at home, and it stays with them. And sometimes it deteriorates a little bit. And so that's why
Mhm.
it's always, constant conversation.
Well, it's like I think you said the other day, it's the wet concrete, right? Wasn't
Yeah.
that the analogy you
That
used?
that's what Austin said, right?
Oh,
Is like
that's
I
yeah,
just
that's a smart analogy.
yeah,
Can you
yeah.
repeat it?
Yeah, it's basically like I just did this concrete and I need it to dry, I need it to settle, and I don't want you walking all over it and ruining it. And he talks
Yeah.
about the board and trains going home and going right back to the lifestyle that they had. And I call it like rehab, right? Like if we're another term that comes to mind is like drug rehab for human beings. And if we were to take the person that just went through drug rehab and put them back in the environment that they just were,
Hmm.
guess what? And we haven't made changes at all, they're going to relapse. It's going to come back. And so I like that. When I thought about that, I was like, oh, okay, we have to make changes. And that's what I meet with my clients and let them know, hey, while the dog's with me and working with me, I need you to think about the changes that we're going to make when the dog comes home and forming new habits on your end, so the dog doesn't go back to the situation that he was in, and it makes it harder for this behavior that has just been trained and to stick in and to hold, and it's more meaningful when the dog goes back and is carried on with the client. Um, and it's
Yes. And I
under
want to come back to this. I want to make sure we're answering the questions as they're
okay.
coming in. So,
Okay.
my other buddy named Bill
What's up, Bill?
asked this question.
How do you handle two male intact dogs that get along fine and seemingly nowhere get in a fight? How to work on correcting? Well, first and foremost, I'm always looking for triggers, right? And dogs are going to fight mainly over three things: food, toys, affection, right? So those are the top three things that a dog's going to get: either possessive over food, high value item, possessive over no, look, possessive over a space or an item like a bone or a chew toy or something like that, or affection, right? So if you're loving up one dog, another dog might get jealous, or you're loving up one dog and another dog tries to get in, and the dog tries to guard you or not, or be possessive of you and the affection that they're seeing. So that's the first thing. And there's also a component of this that is because they're both intact males, a little bit of testosterone there, right? And I want to first and foremost see if I can identify the trigger, identify what's making them fight, and start to de-escalate the situation, especially when dogs. Yep, that's usually what happens. So the very dominant dog, I want to stop the staring. I want to stop the fixation. I want to start to get into that dog's mind of like, hey, man, I want to stop this at level 2 before it reaches 6, 7, and 8, until it starts to get into a fight. And so work on observation. There we go with that observation. Is we observe the dogs when they're going to fight, what happened, and I take like a 30,000 foot view if we have a situation where there is a fight, and just kind of look at all variables in the environment. And that's the first thing. Second thing is that if I do have a dog that's a little bit more dominant, then I'm going, when I break up the fight, I'm rule of thumb usually going after that dominant dog and letting them know, hey man, knock this crap off. And it's also, I mean, this is a big question, right? It's like how do you work on correcting? We keep the threshold down, and also structure it in a way, especially if it's affection, right? Where we call a dog to us, give them affection, get the other dog a stay command, and then call the other dog to us for affection as well. Let both dogs see that they're both worthy of the affection. And I mean, this is something, unless I see it and see how intense, because we have disagreements as human beings, dogs have disagreements.
Mhm.
And if the fight isn't too intense, I mean, anytime a fight lasts longer than a couple seconds, I'm getting involved, right?
Mm.
And it's something that, you kind of want to go after the aggressor, set up situations where you can address it, um, and keep the threshold low, and so they get along and they start to tolerate one another and not have to feel like they need to fight. And dogs fight and dogs bite for two reasons. One, because they think they can, and two, because they think they have to. Right. And so we also want to see if that, like, the dominant dog is being a little bit pushy and the neutral dog feels like he has to defend himself. You have anything to add, Nate?
Yeah, I think something that is highly underrated, which we've talked about plenty of times as well, but it's always good to add to it, is management. So a lot of times if I'm dealing with a client that has two dogs that have issues, I mean, you nailed it right at the beginning where you're talking about the type of resources that they do fight over. And when we think about the word alpha, what it means in the dog world is priority access to limited or valuable resources. And if one of the dogs is being more dominant, the aggressor causing issues, I'm right there with you. That's the one I'm going to pull away, which this can be conflicting at times because then someone might assume, well, the dog that growls is the one that's being an aggressor, or that could be the communicator trying to say, hey, I don't want to get involved. So something I've always liked to do anytime there's a household with multiple dogs is really the management. So management, and what I mean by that and the structure that we were talking about is setting up the house and the rules in the house to where we can reduce the likelihood of a conflict happening. And I know it's much easier said than done. But for example, with my dogs, Ari and Maverick have gotten into it twice. Now, Charlie has never gotten into it with anyone. And those who don't know my dogs, we have Ari, the Malinois you see in the back, Maverick, my German Shepherd, who's around a year and a half now, close to a year and a half. And then we have Charlie. Charlie's 9 years and Ari's 10 years. Now, Ari has always been the alpha. I hate to use that word, but with just Ari, and just because people misinterpret it, but with Ari and Charlie, Charlie has always been very submissive. Anything Ari wants, Charlie gives it to her. Mm-hmm. No complaint, no argument. He's like, here you go, take it. I don't want any conflict. Never had any issues with them. But as Maverick's gotten bigger, he's much bigger than Ari now. He's been stepping up. And so once I started to see that, I started to implement some basic structure and management that I wasn't doing before. And what I did was I started giving the dogs all their own everything. So they got into a conflict over water. It wasn't extreme. It's like siblings fighting. There was no blood, but it looked intense. Yeah. And then afterwards you look, you're like, you're both fine. Okay. Yeah. But I gave them, they both had their own water bowls now. They have their own sections for everything. So there's certain areas where Ari is only allowed to go and Maverick's not. There's certain areas where only Maverick's allowed to go and Ari's not. And there's areas where they both can go. And so I teach them this by using my very basic way of teaching rules and boundaries, where I use my marker that predicts negative reinforcement. So I use the word wrong, or I use the remote training collar, which I found to be very helpful for creating boundaries. So once the dog knows the tone, then I keep the tone on the dog when I'm teaching them all the house manners. And anytime the dog goes into areas where they're restricted, like if Maverick tries to drink out of Ari's water bowl, I hit the tone. He's like, oh, can't do that. Or if he tries to jump on her bed, hit the tone, can't do that. And by enforcing the structure, it reduces the odds of something bad happening. And this is something that people often overlook. And I want to pull up a video of a dog trainer. He's a good dog trainer, and his channel's growing pretty fast. His name is Andy Kruger. Some of you probably know who he is. He has 110,000 subscribers now.
Cool.
But this is a little short, and I don't usually comment on people's videos, but I wanted to because of what people were saying, and it just wasn't accurate. Oh, he's been putting up a lot of shorts lately. Actually, if you can, it's going to take me a moment to find the one that would add to the maintenance or the way in which you could structure the house. Because, yes, structuring and creating rules inside the house is important, but what are the ways that you do it? What are the ways that you implement it? Yesterday, when you were talking to Austin, you guys talked about get and go, like get away from me.
Yep.
That's a good command inside the house. I'm really big on the climb command in the house. So I do the same thing, but I'm not going to curse on here. But with my dogs, I don't say get or go. I say F off. I say it in a friendly way. I'm like, hey, F off, And it's funny. It makes me laugh. And then the dogs walk off. They don't know the word I'm actually using. But yeah, so I use that and I use climb. And then I use wrong to reinforce boundaries. What are some of the ways you implement structure in the house while I look for this video?
Yeah, find that video. And if you guys are watching, consider subscribing to my channel as well. I'm trying to get some more subscribers, and Nate's helping me with that, with the thumbnails, and I'll be doing some shorts and whatnot. And I have a ton of wonderful information there. But bottlenecks, right? That's the other thing that I was thinking about when you're talking about their space, right? Is that I've had dogs that have gotten into altercations. One was when they're running out into their run. Oops. And they kind of squished in between the dog door. And I don't know if one of them hit the other one or caused a pain. It's just like when we wrestle, I don't wrestle as much as I used to, but if you catch an elbow or something like that, and it makes you mad, then you fight. Like it's something that happens in a bottleneck. So bottlenecks are increased intensity that can manifest in frustration and can result in a fight as well. So looking at the environment, and whenever I feed my dogs too, like once a dog's done eating, I have a dog that's like, loves to go around and harass the other dogs and try to get some food or something like that. And the dog that's maybe too submissive might back away from his bowl. And so I do not allow any harassment of other dogs. In fact, once you're done eating, then you get out of that space. And so that's a very high value. And too submissive, there's a couple things to it. They can be taken advantage of, but there's also a toughening up aspect that the dogs kind of want to do, I think, to what we call it. There's the alpha and then there's the omega, which is the other side of the spectrum there. And they want to toughen up or make a dog that is too submissive. They kind of pick on them a little bit too. So I'm mindful of that as well. It's like, look, if there's anybody that's going to be toughening up my dog, it's going to be me, in a way that's structured, that's going to benefit them for the long run. And it's not up to you to do this task. So, and then managing toys, they all have their own crates. They all have their own beds. Just like you said, once they're in their space, and I don't let them go to another dog's space. And then I use right. So what did you say you use for your?
I actually like better. I use the word wrong, which I constantly say on my videos now. Like, I'm going to change it. And the reason why is when you say certain words to people, they think of the dictionary definition. Totally. So when they use the word wrong, they watch in my videos and then they go, oh, okay, I got it. And then they start using the word wrong in the wrong way. And one of the most common ones is they'll tell a dog, let's say, to go into a down. And I'm guilty of this. I made this mistake. Everything that I recognize are mistakes I've made. That's why I can recognize them. But they'll tell the dog down. The dog won't go into the down. They'll say wrong. And then they'll make the dog go into the down using negative reinforcement. But if they do that enough, as you know, they're teaching the dog that the command is down wrong. If you're going to make the dog do it with negative reinforcement, just say down and make the dog do it. So every time I say wrong, it's when I'm being reactive to the dog, just like you would with don't go in the kitchen, don't jump on the sofa, and then you show them the preferred behavior. I think that's probably how you use it. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's how I use the word wrong. But yeah, again, people hear the word and they think dictionary definition. And it's like, when I say wrong to my dogs, it's not wrong, you stupid dog. No, it's wrong. And then I show them the preferred behavior. And I did find that video. So if you're ready, we can switch to that real quick and then we can come back. I definitely want to answer this question too. I think this is a good one for the NePoPo system. Did you have anything you want to add before I jump over to the video?
No, if there's anything that you need added, hope we answered your question, Bill. And let's see the video.
Yeah. And if you want to ask more, Bill, please do. Okay. So I'm going to switch over to this. We'll go full screen. Cool. Okay.
Oh, I saw this video.
So, and there were a lot of people that were commenting in the video, and I actually responded. So someone put, how exactly is that addressing the issue? And then some people are like, this isn't addressing the issue. It's not. It's avoiding it. And it's like, of course, these comments are coming from people who aren't educated in the dog world. Yeah. And I don't usually comment, but I did. And I've raised dozens of dogs that have never shown any signs of food aggression towards people. The reason, from the very beginning, we teach them that once the food is given, it isn't randomly taken away by humans. Additionally, we introduce a drop it or an out command during play, which can later be applied to food if needed. When dogs aren't given a reason to guard their food, they don't develop resource guarding behaviors. That's exactly what Andy is demonstrating in this video. One major issue with Cesar Millan's alpha dominance approach is that many people associate dominance with aggression. This often leads them to act aggressively towards their dogs, which in turn causes the dog to become aggressive back. Just look at Cesar, how he's behaving in this video. He is being very aggressive. In my experience, handling food aggression cases nearly all stem from owners being aggressive towards their dogs in an attempt to assert dominance. In short, the best way to solve the problem is to never create the problem in the first place. Make sense?
Yep, absolutely.
Right?
Inadvertently, and we talked about this with Austin, right? Is like when the dog's in that modality, they're expecting a fight. Right. And whenever you come at them like that, then you're just confirming what they believe is going to happen. And so it starts a vicious cycle.
Exactly right.
And same thing when I do teach the leave it or drop command, I give the dog the toy back. Like I take it away and I give it back. I take it away, I give it back. I take it away, I give it back. So the dog knows, hey, look, I'm not only just taking this away and putting it up. And so the dog, it starts to realize, okay, this is a conversation. This is something that's going to come back to me. I'm going to relinquish it readily. And same thing, like I'll have my dogs eat and then I'll have them sit, stop, sit, good dog, right? And let them eat more or whatever. But it's also the barrier, right, of him shutting that door is a confirmation to the dog that, look, I can really enjoy this. This is something that is now mine. And it's very important when a dog eats and has that reward of just the hunger being satiated, but also enjoying, just like I love eating, man. Italian food, forget about it, right? It's like it's something that I don't drink, I don't smoke or anything of that stuff, but I sure love food. And
it was like you were saying too a moment ago. You said some dogs will try to mess with the other dog. So then you have, if you have multiple dogs, you have one dog that's eating really fast because it wants to eat the other dog's food.
Yep.
And then you have the other dog eating really fast because it wants to make sure the other dog doesn't take its food. And then, of course, you have the dogs like my Labrador Charlie who eat really fast because they have insanely high food drive.
Yeah,
but
because they're maniacs.
Putting a dog in a situation where they can be more relaxed. And then what you were talking about, the out and having them release and giving it back, you incorporate it into a game. And that's a big part of all these dog training systems that have been evolving over the years and all the science that backs the fact that dogs learn better and faster when we incorporate play. Dogs that have structured play end up learning faster and enjoy the obedience more. It's I posted a short on it from the conversation that I had with Larry, where I said, how important is play? And he says it's non-negotiable. Figuring out what sort of play style your dog has is going to enhance the relationship, and incorporating a drop it command into the play, the dogs don't see it as we're taking it away. And again, it's always the attitude that we put behind it. We go back to that video. And I don't want to bash on Cesar Millan, so I'm not trying to do that, just this specific example, because I do have a lot of things to thank Cesar Millan for, because he brought dog training to the forefront of the public mind. He's done a lot of good things for the dog world because of that. Now, I don't do alpha dominance, but I don't like trying to bash people. I'm just using that as an example. So for everyone who's listening, and so I forgot where I was going with that, but let's jump to the next question.
Well, I mean, it's just the play, right? And
play. That's right. Sorry, I didn't get much sleep last night. So.
Neither did I, man. We're right there together. And I'm going to share something here too about play, you guys.
And I want to get to this too, so you can answer that question.
Well, and if you guys have any questions, I'm going to share my screen right here.
Okay.
Okay, and just like with my conversation,
I pulled you up so you can show your screen. Oh, wait, you're showing it on another one. I'm sorry.
Yep, I shared the screen there. I just did a conversation with Austin, and what you guys will find out is that I'm huge with roots of words that we use, because just like when you say wrong, like some of the words that we use as human beings, just like with proper communication with dogs that we're talking about, there has to be proper communication with human beings as well. And there's some words that I can say to you that means something completely different to me when I say it, that will mean something completely different to you when you hear it, right? And so it's first and foremost that we get a common ground definition of the words that we're talking about, and I like to go to the root of the word itself. And that's what we call etymology, is a study of words, and epistemology is in the study of knowledge, which is a greater part of what we're doing here. But if we look at the root word of just play, leap for joy, right? It's an old English word, and it's Dutch, and leap for joy or dance, right? And so building relationship, we're actually doing an enjoyment, enriching activity when we play with our dogs. And play, I believe 100% with Larry. I believe 100% with Jay Jack and Dylan Jones, and they all stem from Ivan Balbinoff, right, with the TWC methodology. And I hope to attend his school. And I've been talking with Ivan because I love playing with my dogs, man. Just like we love playing with each other, and as we get older, the play looks a little different, where we razz each other, we just make each other laugh. But it's an enjoyment activity, enjoyable activity that we can do. And with the relationship aspect, rapport is power, right? And so when we can enjoy each other, then that's a powerful relationship. We're apt to do much more with somebody that we love, trust, and enjoy being around. And so that's how we build that with our dog. The relationship that we have is with play. And in the play, we see a lot of telltale signs that is intrinsic with that dog. Like, they'd love to be chased. They hate to be chased. They love to chase. They love to get something, and you can grab something. I've always told people, like, we have to teach the dog how to fetch. We don't have to teach the dog keep away. Right. So I'll take a thing and put it behind me and guard it. Right. And the dog's like, oh, it's on, man. Right. And so, and playing in a manner where we set up small victories for that dog as well, and celebrate those victories. Oh, you've got it, buddy. Good job. And the dog is proud of himself. And so play is mandatory. Play is something that is, I think, a huge aspect that's overlooked, especially when we start to get into the obedience. And I talk about this as an art and a science. And the play is when we start getting into the art aspect of it, but we can derive a lot of scientific information through observing and interacting with play.
Yes, and I was gonna look. I'm looking up a video I was gonna pull up that Austin shared. It's not coming up right now, but it was a few months ago. He posted a video on the different play styles that dogs have. I'll try to find it so I can put it into the comments, because each dog does have their own play style, and we want to play with our dogs, but we have to know how to properly play with our dogs. And it's not
Yep.
as intuitive as we might think, because we've been doing it for so long. I was doing a promotion for BarkBox a few years back, and I like BarkBox. It's not the best for my dogs because they destroy the toys in like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
They just
Throw
rip
money.
them up.
Here, let me just give you some money, dogs.
Yeah, but my dogs
Sure.
always loved it. But anyways, I had like 6 boxes from them, and I thought it'd be cool to show a bunch of different dogs playing with the toys. So I went to a park, and as people were coming out, I was like, "Do you want a free BarkBox? If so, just let me film your dog playing with the toy." And people were like, "Yeah, cool, sounds great." And no one knew how to play with their dogs. I had to grab the toy and start engaging with the dogs. And again, what Larry and I were talking about, one of the big ones is what they call the suicide rabbit, which doesn't exist in reality. No dog or no rabbit jumps into a predator's mouth, but we do that with the toys. We take it and we shove it in the dog's mouth. And that seems like it makes sense. Like, here's your toy, take your toy and play with it. But with dogs, we want to use that prey drive. We want to move it away to get them to move forward and grab the toy. And so understanding how to play with the dog is very important. And that's a learning curve. So I'll try to find that video because he has a really nice video on it, understanding dogs' different play styles. Simple example, my dog Ari, her play style is the fight. She likes the fight, meaning she wants to do tugs. She wants to engage. If I release the toy for her, it's almost a punishment. She's like, why are we stopping? Whereas Maverick likes a quick little fight, and then he likes to run off with the toy. And when I say fight, again, tug, it's all fun, the attitude behind it. But knowing how to is really, really important. I want to definitely get to these questions because you and we could talk forever on one subject. This is a really nice comment. Thank you so much. And NePoPo is absolutely for pet dogs.
Yep.
I agree completely.
Yeah,
And
and it's important to know, because people inadvertently use NePoPo. Once you understand the system, you're like, oh my gosh, this is how they got their dog to pull on that leash crazy. This is how they got the dog figured out their own advantage of barking at the door like nuts, right? So the dog has ignition, but it's just ignition for the behavior that we want to fix. And so and not only that, but once we bring stability, once we build a relationship, then we can take it 180 degrees and build ignition into another behavior that you want using the NePoPo system.
And while you answered this question, I'm going to try to find that video.
Okay, and I'll read. I always like reading out the questions too for people that might be listening to this on podcast. So if you don't see it, but the questions come up on screen. But the man says, "Would you bump up the working level on the collar when your dog seems to not feel it, or just shrug off the usual working level?" You bet. I want the dog to feel it, right? And also sometimes they feel it in the house when stimulus is low, and the other part of this question too is that's what's cool about the Martin system collar. Sometimes they don't feel it because the contact isn't being made. And so Martin system collars, the chameleon collars that Michael and Bart sell, they're a little bit more pricey, but they also have patented technology, that is available only on that collar, and they have what's called a contact measurement system. So first and foremost, I want to make sure that contact is being made, right? And so I don't dial it up to a level that becomes uncomfortable, to a corrective or reversive level. I want to make sure that the contact is being made. But if I know the contact is being made, absolutely, I'll bump up that collar. I want the dog. It's like a tap on the shoulder when the voice doesn't work, or it's just a tap on the shoulder when I want the dog to do. And yeah, I'll bump it up to the level that is suitable for that dog without being at the level of correction or aversive. So yes, I would, but I also want to ensure first and foremost that contact is being made.
Yeah, and what's a good way to make sure the contact's being made?
Comb the dog's hair, right? And with the e-collar technologies, the dog treads and stuff like that, which are just a prong with the box. Sometimes there's a touchpad that you can use for the long-haired dogs, but there's really no effective way of ensuring 100% that the contact is being made unless we have that feedback, and that's what the Martin system collars have. So there are ways that we can get tools that help us to ensure, but it's just a guessing game unless you have that feedback information that says like absolutely contact is being made.
And this is one I picked up from Larry. I've never personally used the wings.
Yep,
I always use the
feathers or
extenders.
wings we call them.
But yeah, from what I heard from him and Austin, these are almost foolproof. Like they pretty much will make connection almost every time.
Yep,
so
and
if
it's
you do
not
have a
blunt.
longer coat, that helps.
Yep, and the shorter coat, it means like the pitties and the Dobermans and the Rotties. That like it's much more. The contact is being made much more effectively, but with longer haired coats like the Huskies, the German Shepherds, you want to use those fingers, or excuse me, those feathers, or the wings that they call them.
I think this is a follow-up on that too.
In place on working level, just no signs that he feels it anymore. Yep. I mean, it's a lot of times the distractions in the environment override what he feels on the collar. Can you explain where I should have my German Shepherd be placed when new people enter owner houses and he is 9 years and he is a year and 9 months? So I always look at, if you guys are familiar with feng shui, I know this is a different topic, but feng shui, I believe, is a real thing, like the energy flow in the house, right? And so I want to position the dog's place. out of the energy flow. So I don't want to put the dog right where they are so tempted to go after the door, or the person when they walk in the house, the first thing they see is that dog. I kind of want the dog to be off in the corner in a nice safe spot where you can address the behavior in case he does get off that place, and the dog isn't tempted. We set him up for success by putting him in a place. And then also I like to structure the doorbell, the stimulus kind of means that now that's my time to go to the place. And just like with the place, like if I want my dogs to greet my guests, I also have a command: say hello to our friend. So the dog knows, like, this is time that I can get off my plate. I'll tell him, break, say hello to our friend. And so now the dog has a greeting command. So now the dog knows that, oh, cool, I know I'm free and I can come over and say hi to you. As long as it stays at a tolerable level, like the dog doesn't get overwhelmed and jump all over the person, is polite, has good etiquette with the greeting as well.
How do you rehearse that? What's the best way or best strategy for rehearsal?
I always I do it on the leash. I do it anybody. Hey, can I say hi to your dog? You bet. 1 second, please. Sit. And then I put a hand in front of the dog's face. I always have a physical cue as well as with my verbal. So I'll put the hand in front of the dog's face, and then I'll draw them to the person that I want them to say hello to. And I say hi. Hey, Ash, one of my dogs, say hi to our friend here. And then the dog is like, oh, cool. Like at Cabela's or anywhere I can have my dog, people always approach me. Oh, could I say hi to your dog? You bet. 1 second. Ash, sit. Ash, say hello to our friend. And that's how I structure it. As a puppy, everything. Like I have this puppy that I'll be doing that with. And so whenever somebody asks, I'm always like, yeah, you bet. 1 second. Right. So I don't let them jump all over my dog. And some people, man, they're weird, that they just go up and pet your dog or whatever. And
what's the initial sit for? And do you let everybody? Because I'm very cautious on who I let pet my dogs.
No, I don't let everybody. I'm like, no, he's just out enjoying. Or I also say he's in training right now.
That's what I say. Yep.
He's in training right now. Just observe him from a distance if you don't mind. He is a handsome boy. I know that. But yeah, I don't let everybody. I don't. And if some of my dogs are, especially if I'm working with a dog that's fearful and trying to bring him out into the public, I do not let people pet him. And like I remember one time I had a standard poodle, and we were having an issue because we went to, I believe it was like Petco or something like that, and the sliding glass doors. When we walked into he was frightened as heck of those things. And so I was like, okay, here's my training gift. Here's my moment that the world has just presented me where I can work on threshold. So I'd let the dog sit out there for a second, observe people coming in and out of that door. Right. And people would come out, oh, wow, hi, can I say hi to your dog? No, he's working on staying, or working on tolerating this door. And the sit is kind of, to me, it's like putting that dog into the window of learning, right? It's like a cue that the dog it has to pay attention to me. I've given the dog a command, and so now I have the dog's attention. And then once I have that dog's attention, then I structure it to say hello. And then with that poodle, I would eventually move into the breezeway there and onto the other side, and then I'll walk through a few times until the dog kind of was able to tolerate it in a way that was that he was not as fearful. And then I just kind of made a mental note of like, okay, I'm going to come back here tomorrow. I'm going to come back and just let this dog experience this and realize that nothing happened. And sometimes whenever I let somebody pet that dog during that moment, I don't want to reinforce that fearful dog. I just want that dog to be. I don't say anything. I just let my neutral self kind of stand there and observe. And I'm just being there and letting the dog just be there as well, and letting the dog just kind of put it together like this is something human contraption that is okay.
And what's your protocol for if the dog does jump up? And so the sit, just to clarify, that's almost like setting a mindset, setting the stage for what's taking place to kind of get the dog shifted into the right thought process.
Yep. And if the dog does jump up, then depending, I mean, if it's something that the dog doesn't know right away, and then I'm using the and then, but if the dog starts does it a little bit more, then I'll do a firm no. and then it stops, and then we're
And do
not.
you instruct? Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Finish your thought.
No, and then it stops. The behavior stops. We use a little bit of negative punishment of like no affection, no nothing for you. As long as you are being polite, then you get the loves. But as soon as you start to be a little bit insistent on the by jumping and put your paws on other people or myself, then it stops, and the affection and the attention that you desire goes away.
So you have to provide the person with a little bit of guidance and instructions before they pet your dog, then, right?
Yeah, a lot of times, absolutely. It's like, look, as long as he's nice, if he jumps up, then just stop petting him, please.
Mhm.
And that's why
Perfect.
I don't let everybody do it. Right? It's like sometimes people that they're going to unravel the training that I do because they're like, oh my god, I love you so much.
Mhm.
Yeah, get up on me like love. And it's like, dude, you just kind of took me back 3 steps, right? And
Yeah, well,
so
it's interesting how our culture out here is in the States that everybody what you see a puppy, everybody wants to come up, everybody wants to touch and love on the puppy, and a lot of people, like you said, they won't even ask. But
yep.
you go to other countries where the culture is much different when it comes to dogs, one of which being Germany, where dogs are all over the place, but everyone, in a sense, respects the dog's space. They're not walking up and petting other people's dogs. They're not even giving it attention. And so the dog learns, like, oh, I can go out in public and I don't have random people touching me on my head or looking at me in a weird way. And people often act weird with dogs. And then they wonder why the dog's being reactive because
Yeah.
they're looking at them in a very odd way. Let's get to the next question.
Yeah.
Um, hmm. Sorry, I'm trying to find one. So a lot of them are like, hey guys, how's it going? All that good stuff.
You're good.
What is this one? Oh,
I'm
okay,
dyslexic.
dyslexic.
I know
And
your
then your
puppy
puppy.
videos. I'm dyslexic, just so you know too. I and it's pretty common. That's teaching the law of livable higher value reward is also an effective tool to combat food aggression. Yeah, I mean it depends on the dog too, man. Whatever works for that dog, right? I do not compete in any dog sports. I do a GRC a little bit. I'm interested in PSA, possibly. I've done agility, obedience, all that stuff in the AKC. Play is a game changer. And I've been promised a bunch of dogs, man. Like people call me, and it's so tempting. I have 7 dogs right now. I'll never have this many dogs ever again. But my next dog, I want to do. I'll probably do either PSA or IGP. I like the scent detection aspect of IGP, the tracking. That's what attracts me to that. So, and I've been talking with Brittany and Sergio about French ring. I'm very passionate about it. I've watched a ton of competitions, and I get into the nuances of why the dog does this in this sport, and it's fascinating stuff. I love seeing dogs perform at the highest level.
It's a big commitment. I mean, it's impressive what those competitive trainers do.
Does the R trade? Well, the R trademark mean I cannot say the word without some kind of permission? Like I can't call my method NePoPo on the website? Nope, you cannot, because it is a trademarked methodology. It is registered with the patent office, and it is just like yeah, unless you are a NePoPo trainer, you can't use the methodology. They'll definitely it's not a good idea. It's something that is in the legal realm, right? So they can send a cease and desist, and so it's dude, I love flirt polls. What a great question, Bill. Like flirt polls. Do you use flirt polls, Nate?
I definitely do. Yep.
Yeah, man. And I mean, I wonder if I can send a video or show a video of one of my dogs. Man, my dogs from day one, I use flirt poles, and I use like a little leather tug. And my dogs, it's like
Mhm.
crack for my dogs, man. And this is how we can get them to be. I mean, it just brings about some real big ignition for those dogs. I want to see. I probably have. Let's see one of my videos here.
Well, they're usually pretty easy to use
Yeah,
once
and
you
you can
understand the
make them.
concept.
You can make them too. Like PVC pipe, I'll drill the end of it, and then I'll put some paracord or the nylon cord that you use for camping and stuff like that. And then I've even tied like the skins of their favorite animal onto it. There's so many uses for it. Well, here's a video of the progression of the collars, of the NePoPo collars. So there's the first one. There's the second one. Here is the canine. And then here is the CTT4. And so, yeah, flirt poles are highly, highly recommended. And pole gives you an opportunity to, oh, look at this, you guys. So this is just on me using the flirt pole with a couple of my dogs.
Oh yeah,
here.
perfect.
Right. And so this is something, now watch, because we do it in the slow-mo. Watch her. I call her my little piggy. Dude, she's such a nut, man. Look at her. Like, and she just
So
makes
cute.
me laugh so hard. Right. And so he's trying to get it. And so it allows them to toss around, allows them to just have fun, man. And not only that, but then it allows us to structure it. So I do a couple dogs, and one dog I might have sit and stay and chill. And they're just like, I can't do this, right? And then I have the other dog take turns. It gives them an opportunity to teach the out of let that go, and then let's play again. It teaches you the opportunity of opening the window of play. You guys want to play? You want to work, right? And then closing the window of play. All done. And let me put this away. We're all done, right? And so this play is so important, you guys. And flirt poles are amazing.
Yeah, flirt poles, they really do simplify it. And with my Malinois, Ari, I did more play with her than any obedience. I played with her probably 50 times more than I did obedience training with her. And her obedience is really, really great. Except if you get a decoy out now. She has such high drive for decoys, and I haven't done sport decoy work with her in like 5 years, 6 years. So I did it not too long ago for IGP, just to let a new decoy take some catches with her. And she came out, I had like almost no control.
She's like, that's the biggest toy I've ever seen, dude. I'm all about it.
Yeah, so if I was to do something with her like that, I'd have to rebuild her back up. But her drive for bite work is so incredibly high because, again, that's play. And that's something that I also find funny. There's some people out there that think that doing protection training with the dog is cruel because they think that you're making the dog bite. It's like, no, we're not making the dog bite. We have to control not to bite. Yeah. With the sport, because you're basically wearing the dog's favorite toy, whether it's an IGP sleeve or you're wearing the bite suit. This is a good question. At what age do you recommend starting an e-collar and scent detection training?
Oh, scent detection. So those are two things. And keep in mind too, like I do e-collar training, but it's not mandatory. Like I can train a dog without an e-collar. It's just like, but it's also like I can get a cell phone. The iPhone isn't mandatory, right? But it allows a much more effective means of communication, right? And I do my dogs with about 5-6 months. I start going pretty heavy with the obedience work, and that's the foundation work that I do with my dogs. And then once I got a good understanding, then I might overlay the e-collar on top of what they know already to reinforce another layer of influence that I'm using to talk to my dog and bring about distance with that dog. So e-collar, I mean, I can start it at 8 to 10 months, maybe 6 months if the dog really gets it, is starting to, do really well. And then the scent work, man, I start that as a puppy. Mm-hmm. You can start, the dog is born with this tool, their nose, that is amazing, right? 200 million, upwards of 200 million scent cells in some of our dogs, 120 to 200, actually 220 million scent cells. Human beings, we have about 5 million scent cells. And so the dogs automatically see with their nose. And the way that we interact with the dogs, we teach them to see with their eyes because that's how we see the world. But the dog as a puppy is automatically looking with their nose. And so I'll start scent work right away. I'll start it with play, just like we're talking about, where I'll hide scent, or I'll have multiple people in the house, give the come command. And then I tell them, let the dog find you, go hide behind the door, but have a treat or something high value, right? I call it dog money. where regular kibble's like $5, but have something more valuable like cheese, which is like $10,000 for a dog, where they can use that nose to track and to find you. Another thing that I'll do is I'll actually I'll go and I'll seed my yard with like little treat spots. Okay, so I'll go out there before I get the dog out of the crate, and I'll put little treat spots. And sometimes I'll take, and if it's cheese or if it's like a good meat or something like that that leaves a scent, sometimes I'll rub the scent along like the wood post or something that where I'll hide the treat, and then I'll guide the dog to different directions, right? And then I'll point to where the scent is and let the dog find the treat. And then I'll be like, "Oh, you're done. Let's go over here." And so it builds camaraderie. It builds a dog listening to you because you know where the good stuff is, right? And then we also use it for tracking with we use the dopamine box. We can use that and let the treats rain in on the dog. Then we take the bottom out of the tracking box. We do the ground disturbancy, and then eventually we'll take the ground disturbancy ideology, and with the IGP especially, which is Schutzen, we'll take a step. We'll put Lars Lentz. I've done a nice interview with him, IGP guru, and he talks about putting the heel, like stepping down with the heel, rolling the foot forward, and then putting the treat in the next heel. And so we'll have like a little, so we're not always having to bend down. We'll have a PVC pipe. We'll drop the treat in the PVC pipe so it falls in the heel. And so the dog doesn't see it with his head down. The dog sniffs the footprints, and every other footprint, he starts to get rewarded with that treat. And then every few footprints, he starts to get rewarded with the treat, and then eventually we just keep that dog. We want the dog down sniffing, right? And then I also do the scent where I put it in a glass jar, and we use a glass jar that we can see through, so we can see that dog's nose is working, right? And so I want to show the dog, and I operantly conditioned, put the nose in the jar, click click, boom, put the nose in the jar, click click, boom, put the nose in the jar, right? And then I can offer conflict where I put a treat in one hand, a jar in the other. Which one do you want? And the dog puts it in the jar, and it gets a click. But if he goes for the hand with the treats in it, then I can utilize the e-collar work to put pressure to put the dog back on the jar. So it's huge. But we use this. I mean, I even used it with. There's people that use it where they'll put scents that are. When the puppy is before their eyes are even open, they can utilize that nose that dog has. So e-collar, I start about 10 months, and once I have some foundation laid of some basic commands, but scent detection training from the very beginning once a puppy cuts to me.
Yeah, and I agree with a lot of that as well. With the e-collar, I'm usually around 7 to 9 months. But
Okay.
sometimes I'll even do the conditioning early, where I just get the dog used to seeing the collar, having it on, taking it off. So it doesn't become something very noticeable once we do start using it, to reduce the likelihood of the dog becoming collar smart or equipment smart. And then to add to some of the things you said about the tracking, that technique is definitely becoming more popular. It was the same technique the club that I recently trained with in Oregon was doing. And Tom Rose, he would also use the PVC pipe. He would do it so much tracking, because I think that he was the first American to get a perfect on a FH track.
Yep.
And something else Tom Rose teaches, which I think is really helpful for someone who's first starting out with tracking, is he teaches the lineup concept. If you're out in a field and you lay a track, sometimes you may not see exactly where it's going, or you might start to turn a little bit when you're starting out and you're doing those straight line tracks. So what he teaches is you find a lineup. So if I have 2 trees, I line those trees up and then I track towards those.
Okay.
So then when my dog's tracking, I can tell, even if I can't see it on the ground, I can't see the disturbance from the track, especially when you're not doing as many treats or you're not driving your heel in as much, which that's a good technique too. So like you said, they can't see it because you're putting it in the heel and you're rolling your foot forward, but the lineup really helps. And then what I think about when I'm raising a puppy is I think about what I want the dog to do when they're older. And when they're young, I just try to build a love for the things that are used as tools within that training. So we use food a lot in our training. So I always build food drive. We use toys a lot in our training. So I build toy drive. Confidence is a big part of training. So I always like to build the puppy's confidence. So I like to think about what are the traits that this dog is going to need to excel at whatever it is that I want them to do. If I want them to do nice, flashy obedience, I'm going to do a lot of body manipulation in a sense, where I'm having the dog spin and walk backwards upstairs, all these things to create that high level of awareness. Some of the best agility dog trainers in the world do a lot of that stuff, where they'll have the dog walking backwards up a flight of stairs when they're really young, and understanding how their body works transfers really nicely over to agility. So I think that's something good to think about as well. What is it I want my puppy to do when my puppy's a dog? And how can I build a love for the things that I'm going to use within that training?
Yep. And then how can I incrementally increase the difficulty, right?
Yes.
And then
Yeah.
and how can I, there's the variables of training, right? Where we call it distance, distraction, duration, location, right? I forgot
That's
what the
all part
other.
of proofing.
Yep. And so this is stuff that we can always implement. The changes of distance. How far away does the dog listen to me? Can I get out of the sight of the dog? Distractions. The dog does it in my living room. Can he do it at a public park? Can he do it at a busy shopping center? Duration, like the dog does it for 30 seconds. Let's shoot for 2 minutes. And location, right? Like going all over different places. And that lies into the distractions as well.
And this question is definitely for you, because I have not used the Martin system collars. Are they really worth the $1,600 cost? Is that how much they cost?
The top of the line, absolutely. But you can get a Martin system collar for with $800-900 for a full setup with the T3000. Yeah, I believe so, just because of the to ensure that the contact is being made. And you got to remember too, like a lot of these dogs that are trained using these collars are in life and death situations, special forces, a lot of service dogs use it. Yeah. And it lasts the life of your dog. Right. And so there is a pretty steep cost to it, and they do have a good warranty. There are a lot of features that are present with this collar that are not present anywhere else. So yeah, absolutely. There's a steep price tag. They do have some sales on Black Friday and stuff, where, I mean, top notch training equipment, Elite Canine here in America sells them. And but yeah, it is expensive, you guys, but this is top level stuff, and I personally believe the contact measurement is what sold me on these collars. And before I even went to NePoPo or anything, I saw Bart, and when these collars were new. And the other aspect about these collars is that the company is owned by dog trainers, and so the stuff that they implement, the new technology, like the $1,600 collar that you're talking about, has temperature, so you can see the temperature of the collar itself, and then you have the contact measurement on the device, so you can look down at the device and see if the contact is being made. You don't have to go to the collar itself and look, and I think that that's handy as well. The smaller the T3000 is 1.8 mile distance, so almost 2 miles away from that. The other collars are, I think, 600 yards. So it's, but yeah, in my opinion, yeah, absolutely. I've bought, I have some personally that I've bought, and a lot of my clients have too. But it is a higher level. It is a premium purchase, and but in my opinion, it's worth it.
It's like anything, you get what you pay for. So if you're willing to spend more and those additional features are valuable to you, then it's definitely worth it. I'm going to read the next one because they did 3 comments, which makes sense because you can only put in so many words. So
Yeah.
this is from Amanda. I have anxiety, and he can tell. So when people enter our house, no matter what size a person, and we barely ever have anyone come over, we live somewhere we don't know anyone. I taught him to pick up things when he was 7 months old and put them in my hand. Even if I drop a handful of treats, he will pick them up and put them in my hand. So it's all nervous energy. He will low bark and stand right by my side. He's protecting me. He doesn't do anything. And when I say down, he listens. Okay, so that's, I think, just more of a statement what's
Yeah,
taking place with the dog. Now, of course, I'm big on incompatible behaviors. So if I don't want a dog doing a certain behavior, I just tell them to do something else. I redirect them to a different behavior. Go to your climb bed, go in your crate, whatever I need to do until the dog is built up to a level where the obedience is going to be more reliable in an environment with more distractions.
that's right. And
Here you go.
you,
What's the most challenging title you've coached a student team to?
the most challenging title. So, I mean, I've coached people that have competed in PSA. But I don't know if I've done a 3 yet, but I mean, we have plenty of people that have gone through. I mean, it's not really necessarily titles, right? Because I'm not in the sport world. It's people that have come from military bases and people that just have problematic behavior with their dog that they need fixed, and the dog's good in all other aspects. And that's what's cool about the Gold School, is that we bring the dogs and we work with the dogs and we work with the tools that we have to work real time, and we've made a lot of progress with these relationships. And I got to tell you, man, like, when I go back and if I relinquish my gold multiplicator status. I'm just considered a gold graduate. I've taught a couple classes, and I will always teach a class with another gold multiplicator. So Heather Lowell, who's I put you in touch with her. She's amazing, man. She was my co-teacher, and it's cool when we do these classes that we can put our heads together. And just like Nate and I talk about dog stuff, and that's the beautiful thing about having a good network of people that have a proven track record that you can bring ideas to in a way that makes you a little vulnerable. And just like the people that are bringing their dogs to us because they don't know how to fix it, like, they're in a vulnerable spot, and where we can put our heads together to help this person gain a solution for the problem that they fix, or the problem that they have, so that we can fix it, and more importantly, help them understand how they got into the situation that they're in. And
Yeah.
it all boils down, especially with the working dogs that I have, dude, it all boils down to relationship and bringing about a more meaningful relationship instead of a straight up obedience. Like, the dog's always working, always on, and that's all this dog knows, instead of having some time to just be with that person. And I remember one Gold School, I was like, okay, dude, we did an exercise, and I instructed the person, 45 minutes. I want you just out in my field, go find a shady spot and lay down in the field with your dog and just be with your dog. Like, that's the aspect of it. Is like, we want a dog that has the off button, but also has a modality of having a sense of belonging and having a good relationship with the handler.
Yeah, and that's one of those questions that has so many different variables. And from my experience when I was at the Tom Rose School, we had to teach students to pass the requirements for AKC novice, open, at the master level, utility, IGP 1 and 3, IGP 1 and 3 tracking, scent detection requirements.
Yep.
Protection they did, it wasn't required. They would also have 2 tricks they would have to do. Then they would have to, what they would call V-rate, the doghouse obedience routine, which is a routine that Tom Rose came up with, which is very similar to AKC obedience, just with a few changes and adjustments. And for me, what was most difficult was really very much dependent on the student and not the requirements. Because it's just like with dogs, a lot of times, I don't want to speak for everybody, but for me, when I first started, I really thought all dogs were created equal. I thought, like, dogs are great. They're all amazing. If you can train one, you can train all of them, which is true, but only partially true.
Yep.
Because you're not going to teach a pug to be able to do the same level of, I mean, the odds are going to be against you, the same level of obedience and sport protection that you could with a Malinois or a working line German Shepherd or something like that. So having the right dog from the very beginning is very important. And then again, a lot of it was on the student. I had students that came to the school when I was an instructor there, and they were your top level performers, the ones who were obsessed and addicted. Again, like Austin, Zero to Hero, when he reached out to me and he sent me that video of him working his dog, I was like, this guy has talent.
Yep.
And when you look at somebody like that, it's like, okay, training someone like Austin, for example, if I'm using him as an example here, way easier than training the person who, let's say, and I had a lot of these that just finished high school and their parents paid for the course, so they didn't have any personal investment besides their time. They weren't paying the 20,000 that it cost for the school and the dog and the housing. And it's like that old saying, anything given away for free is worthless. Now,
That's
some
right.
of them performed really well. So, like Maureen Cuccinella, I talk about her quite a bit on my channel. She did the Trick series. I think she had just graduated high school when she came to the school, but she is obsessed with dog training. I mean, she knows so much about dog training. She knows so much about the German Shepherd line. She loves the German Shepherd. In fact, she's the one who recommended the breeder that I got Maverick from. And Maverick is exactly what I wanted. So, someone like Maureen, you just let her go on autopilot, and she was showing me things that I didn't see before. And then, of course, you have the other ones that's not putting in time. So when we're looking at certain requirements and certain goals, the teacher and what they teach is important. But I think more often than not, the individual who's trying to learn is the most important factor. Because again, let's use Austin as an example. He didn't go to a school, but he's so obsessed and he studied every single video he could find, and he reached out to mentors and he talked to them constantly, and he sent videos, and he's so obsessed to tweak and make it better and better, and he thinks about it day and night. He's a way better trainer than a lot of trainers I've seen with over 10 years of experience, and he's only been doing it for 2.5 years. I
Yep.
call him the Gio Martinez of the dog training world. And so Gio Martinez, for those of you that watch jiu-jitsu, he's a black belt competitor. He competes at the top level, and he received his black belt under Eddie Bravo in 3 years. I've been training jiu-jitsu for 6 years, and I'm a blue belt. So it's like there's some people who they're just like a freak of nature when it comes to a certain activity that they're really passionate about. And so, again, to answer the question, it really comes down to the individual. How much work are they willing to put in? And that's why when people ask about going to a school, it's like you're going to get as much out of the school as you put into it. If you go to a school and you don't put in the work, you don't train, you don't try to get better every single day. It's like that saying, well-being is realized in small steps, but it's no small thing. Doing that every single day, then you'll get the results. But if you don't, if you give up too soon or it's too hard and you shut down, you're not going to get the results. So that's my input or my answer to that.
Yeah, it reminds me of like we used to do obedience class, and we would bring in a judge and we would bring in a ring at the end of the session for a novice obedience title. And I remember one student, I was like, "You gonna do the novice?" And he's like, "No, I don't care." I was like, "Dude, you're a rock star. Your dog rocks at it." And he's like, "No, I'm not interested in that." And I'm like, "Cool, man. But it's just all about the handler, right? They're capable of it, but they're just not interested in the title. They're not interested in the accolades or whatever it is, man." And same thing, like I've had people go through, like I call week 5, week 6. And remember, we talked about week 7. That's where the problem weeks come, because at week 5 and 6, we've pretty much addressed everything. And then we're working on just kind of perfecting, polishing, and working up the off-leash reliability after that. And a lot of people just kind of drop out or whatever. And I'm like, I call and check on them, make sure everything's good. And they're like, "Dude, we have the perfect dog. We have everything we've ever wanted in this dog. We're not interested in the title. We're not interested in taking it. Like, we have everything that we need. We have a reliable recall. We have reliable down, sit, stand, stay, all that stuff." And so it's up to the individual. It's not necessarily the class or the accolades that some people will appreciate and other people just don't care at all about.
It is good for some people that if they're professional dog trainers and they couldn't afford a school, like it's a good way to show credentials. If you have a school and you have a certificate and you worked under any one of those big name schools that we already talked about, that shows some credibility. But again, some that can't afford it, they can go online and watch a bunch of courses and be obsessive about it. But going out and putting some titles on some dogs can really help with that credibility. So I like that being an option. And as you said, a big part is the relationship. You have a dog that could be perfect for what you're training them to do, but if you just don't connect well with that dog, and you're not going to connect with every single dog, but
No.
then sometimes you find that perfect dog. Like for me, it's Ari. I mean, I have a really great connection with Maverick and Charlie as well, but Ari, I mean, there's just something about that dog.
He's your heart dog. I call it. That dog lives in your heart, man.
Oh yeah, she's
Yeah.
my all-time favorite dog. And I named her after my other dog, Hira. People often ask, what's the H for? Well, it's Hira in reverse.
Okay.
Hiraaarih. So, any final words of wisdom that you have for, let's say, the person just starting out and they want to be a professional dog trainer, and the pet person who's struggling with some obedience or behavioral issues, to keep them motivated and to keep them on the right track?
Well, for the pet person, don't give up and celebrate your victories, right? Just like you said, like the journey of 1,000 miles begins with one single step. But we got to remember to celebrate our victories, and where we were to where we are. We might not be exactly where we want to be yet, but there's something to celebrate. And the fact that you are seeking help and belong to a network of the people that are offering help, is a wonderful thing. And reach out, don't give up. And I feel for you, man. This is not easy, but it's worth it. Okay. And then for the new trainers, I want to say network, meet people, let yourself be vulnerable, and put yourself in a good network of people that are going to teach you. Like, go after the people that you truly want to learn from, that are producing amazing dogs. And the one thing about titling and about going to these schools is the standards. Adhere to specific standards, right? And not just with your professional life, but also with what you expect from your dog as well. And one of my favorite sayings is, your network is your net worth. And so go to events, socials, meet people, attend as many schools as you can. And it's a big world out there, and there are a lot of little niches that you can get into and get clear about who you are and where you want to be, and strive every day to make that happen.
And let's be clear too, dogs don't need perfection. They need consistency. And you brought that today, Bill. I appreciate it. Now help the people stay consistent too. Where can they follow your lead?
BowWowBill.com, Facebook, Bow Wow Bills, YouTube. I have a channel. You guys are welcome to support me on Patreon. I have a small following there. I think I have a $5 and a $20 level, and every bit helps to bring about exclusive content. And I'll be working on producing more for that Patreon page. And but bowwowbill.com is probably the best way if you were looking to get a hold of me. I do offer assistance for up and coming dog trainers and advice for them as well. And I sure do appreciate you, Nate. I appreciate your friendship, and I appreciate you allowing me to come on your channel and speak to all your fans. Thank you very much.
Well, I appreciate you as well, my friend. And that's it. So remember, everybody, train the mind, shape the behavior, and we'll see you next time.